This is our lovely Harvey. He's going to give us a demonstration of the Bernina sports model.
Yeah, sports. Oh, it is sports, is it? Okay. Yeah. So this is a short introduction to sewing techniques on using a machine, and so I'm just going to go through some health and safety things, and also just techniques maybe, and just about, because most people are familiar, well, some people are familiar with this sort of machine. They are all different, so what I'm going to tell you today is just for this type of machine. Some of them have bobbins, which is this, in different places. So I'm going to show you a little bit about troubleshooting and kind of if something goes wrong, what it is really essentially. So, and there's a lot of panic that's usually involved when something goes wrong with these machines, but it's actually probably about 3 things that go wrong.
They're pretty simple, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, they're not simple actually, they're really complicated. The whole machine is amazingly, it's a precision machine. And if it isn't right, slightly out, it doesn't work. And that's why we have to have them maintained all the time. And it doesn't take much for it to get out. Somebody's forced something or things like that. But it's an incredibly complicated machine. And I'll tell you something, if you're interested in machines, which I am obviously, I will probably link it, but there's a guy called Tim Hunkin, who I used to follow when I was younger, and he's amazing because he's a sculptor, an illustrator, and an inventor. So what he does, he had this series where he would explain and demystify a machine, and so he uses like animations, but also a kind of very crude setup using other people, and it's a lot of fun. So if you look up Secret Life of a Sewing Machine, it's really good. It's really good fun. I mean, it's very dated, but of my time.
Lovely.
It's really good fun. So to start off with, we'll start off with maybe health and safety. So anytime you make any adjustment on the machine, you should turn it off on the mains, right? So always have your foot off the accelerator. If you have it on and you're fiddling about here, which people do, they get into the habit of doing, it's very easy to just push that, and then you've got a needle in your finger, and then you have to waste lots of time in A&E and all sorts of stuff like that. So to avoid that, take your foot off. That's one of the first safety things. And if you're doing anything particularly intrusive, then which is like inside the machine here, then switch it off if it has an off button. I don't think this one does, so you have to go. And they usually have lights on as well. So to start off with, what we'll do is just to wind the bobbin. Let's say. Right.
Do you have a machine at home, Nicole?
Yeah.
You do, and Ashley? You borrowed a friend's, right? Great, good.
So bobbin goes on here, like this, and then you get your thread, which usually goes around here. So it's got a tension, so we put it around onto this one here. And
Every
then,
machine is different, right?
huh?
Every machine is different.
Every machine's different,
Because
absolutely.
my one is different from that.
Yeah, and so in order to do that, you have to unhook the mechanism that makes this go up and down. And the way you do that is you just hold the outside ring and then turn the other ring towards you. So when I start it now, that's not moving, only that's going to move. So you click that into place, and my habit is always to hold the string, the thread. I just do, that's my habit. And so we'll do it about this much, but you can fill it up, and when it fills up, it will just stop.
Interesting. I was taught to do it another way in college.
How did you?
Also to hold it, and then it will thread together. into
How?
the thingy.
So hold this.
You have to hold a little bit and then let it go and then it will go around it. Interesting. I like this way better.
Yeah, I mean this one basically tensions it, and then what you don't want is loose bits in here.
Mm.
So that's the idea of having it under resistance, because loose bits cause a lot of problems with machines.
I'm going to try this on my machine. Maybe it will work too.
Yeah, sure. You can have a go after. So then it's putting the bobbin into the bobbin hole case. So it's kind of like backwards. It's almost like backwards. So it's going this way, and then you flick it into. Can you see that?
A trick I was taught at Goldsmiths was P and Q. You have to think it has to look like a Q, not a P.
Aha, right, okay.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, it does
'Cause
kind of
the
make
letter
sense.
needs to be the Q. Yeah?
And then this is the other test you do. If that goes straight down, then you need to tension this screw
Ah,
here.
nice trick. I didn't know that one.
Oh, see that screw there?
Yep.
So you have to tighten that a little bit. And also you don't want it too tight. But
Okay.
you'll find that out once you use the machine if you need to slacken it. The next thing is to put it into the machine there, and you should hear a little click. See that click?
Click.
Always go for the click. Sometimes people do it by holding the lever out, and you never know if it's properly engaged, and I always like hearing the click.
So when you hit the click, it's properly there.
Yeah, I always kind of even turn it around and then push it in like that, so I know I've heard the click. Because it's really horrible if you don't hear the click and it's just loose in there. Because once you start the machine, you hear horrible noises. It's not nice, and it messes everything up. And then you basically got thread.
Can we adjust?
This bit here?
Yes.
Yeah, we can do that, but we'll do that on.
No, I mean like once you put it, can it come out of the thing by just sewing?
No, not once it's clicked in. Very
Because
rare.
sometimes I'm sewing on my machine and I hear noises, so I wonder if it didn't adjust.
Ah,
properly.
right, yeah. I mean, if you're hearing noises, it usually means something needs adjusting.
Because usually I hear the click when I put it on,
Yeah.
so I was wondering if it's because it can come out. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if like I said, if you hear the click, it's going to be in there, and always check it.
Okay.
But if it comes out, it's usually because you are forcing something, right? So the threading also, there's always something that happens where it goes under something and then through. It's always around the same, and then it'll go up,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Up and over. Yep.
up and over,
Lovely.
right? And this is the bit I'm really rubbish at because I can't see anymore.
You need your little light on though.
My light on, yeah.
I've got a Toyota and it's got a really helpful self-threader.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah.
Self-threader. That's cool.
It's just a little hook that does it for you. It's great.
Oh yeah.
That's the part I don't like about setting the machine.
Huh?
Is
Because
it?
it always takes me really long to put in
Yeah.
the little
So this serrated bit here is what's going to push the fabric forward like that. So once you've got the thread in there, you've tightened this up and you bring this big lever towards you. Just one turn and then up, and then you should catch the thread from underneath, which it has.
Can I just zoom in to show that? So we've got
The loop.
nice. Thanks, Harvey.
All right, so the loop you pull out, so you've got both threads there now, right? And you push those to the back, nice and tidy. All right, and you shut the lid. So now you're kind of ready to start and test the machine. So I always set everything to 0 first. So my top tension is 0, and the bottom tension is actually it's not got one on it.
Which is the best tension to use when you're sewing?
Oh, it all depends. I mean, it all depends on the thread, and it all depends on the fabric. So as soon as you change the thread or the fabric, you have to recheck your tension because it's going to do something else. Right?
Okay.
Also about thread, don't buy cheap thread. Don't buy anything cheap. It has to be good quality.
Which one is the good quality one?
There's loads of good quality ones, but this is kind of that's a cheap one. But let's say like this one, that's a good make.
Can I see?
But but just not cheap, right? And if it's been out in the window somewhere, like in a shop, don't buy it either.
So polyester is the best one to buy.
I hate polyester myself, but
But you should be the
there's
one
so
to go
much.
for.
No, the make I prefer the kind of. You can get more. You can get threads that aren't polyester.
Are those one better?
I prefer it, but you know, polyester is what you get most places, and it's the strong one essentially.
Okay. So which other threads can we get easily? Which material are the others made?
Cotton and well, silk as well, but it's usually polyester generally.
Recycled thread as well.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Recycled with.
Like I'm pretty sure it's just recycled plastic, but they've made it into thread.
Oh right.
Okay.
That seems to work good.
My local stitching store has a massive display of them, and there's also different widths, and sometimes they've bought the one that's I think meant for tapestries, and I tried to run it through the machine thinking, oh, it's nice and strong, and of course it just stops everything working. So I think, yeah, just have a chat to the people in your store, because they'll know which ones can go through machines as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's another thing about needles, because when you're changing the needle, also always have there's a groove on the needle in the front. Always make sure that groove is towards you with your nail. But you can change needles. So let's say I wanted to do leather, which is this needle would find hard, or even some denim, thick denim. Then you can buy special needles which kind of flange out like this. So it basically makes a bigger hole. And then allows the thread to not kind of cram up.
I understand. So every needle is different depending on the machine, right?
Yeah, and everything's kind of very specific. So bobbins are quite specific to machines. So these are all Bernina ones, and so are needles to a degree. But these ones are generally really good. And that number 12, I think. I remember the number. It's a good kind of all-rounder.
Can Ashley hold up so I can just capture the make? Thank you very much. Lovely.
So, so modern machines have lots of different stitches, and quite often many people don't even use them. You pay for them more, but you don't really use them. I like these older machines because they have very basic ones, and so there's less to go wrong really. And so what you want to be able to do is zigzag, and there's a kind of overlock there. And so you've got your stitch types there. You've got the widths of the different stitches here. You turn there.
Thank you.
And this lever in the middle, most machines will have this, will change the needle space. So it means that you can go to the edge of a fabric or in the middle, it depends on what you want. So let's say we run it down the middle to start off with. Okay. And this one here, it does the stitch spacing, right? So if you need something quite for different reasons, you might want a looser stitch, which would be the 4s, or a tighter stitch, which would be the 1s. So if you were doing a zigzag and you wanted to use it as a kind of overlocker, you'd want it around halfway, around 2, and use one of the wider zigzags and run it down the edge of a fabric, and that'll stop it fraying, essentially. So if we do, did I bring my wire up? I don't know if I did. Okay, maybe not. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do just a basic seam and see if the machine works, and maybe I'll use it for a sculptural technique as well. So this is the next bit you do. You offer the fabric up to it, make sure the needle's out, then bring the foot down onto the fabric, okay? And then what I usually do is put the needle in, holding the thread, and put the needle in. And that just helps the machine not to have to jerk start, and you know that at least it's there. So we're going to go ahead and do that stitch in about 3. Right. So you run your little test about that much, and then you turn the fabric this way and you check it. So this is why you must always have scrap fabrics lying around. So that, okay, to me that looks okay. So it means the top and bottom tension are okay, right? So I'm going to go ahead. It's not perfect actually, but we'll go ahead with that one. So the other thing you want to do is not bring your fingers too close to the needle. You're keeping them away and you're guiding it in, but you're not forcing it in, and you're not tugging it this way. So you're not forcing it to not go in, and you're not forcing it. So you just let the machine pull it, and you're just guiding it. And having your fingers about here is a good idea. And then when you get to an end of a piece, you might want to lock it so you don't need to tie the string up. The way to do that is you go into reverse, like that, reverse, and then back again. And that usually means you can just take that out, cut the thread, and your shoes are fine. So the way I take fabric out is just lift it up, make sure that's lifted up, foot is off, and then wiggle this just to allow the thread to come out easily. If you don't do that, you can actually catch the thread, and then you've got to start all over again threading. So that's a kind of seam, a basic seam, right? So let's say that was a piece of fabric, you know, garment. You might want to seam that again on the top, or you might want to iron it. You know, in denim jeans and stuff, that's basically a seam on top. Okay. So I want to do. If I brought my wire with me, I'll just let me see if it's in the other cupboard. Sorry, pause it from there.
It's lovely and quiet, isn't it, the Vanina? My one's much noisier.
Yeah, my one's so low.
Need earmuffs, huh?
Yeah.
When this machine will be Berlina.
So what I wanted to show you this for is this not just for sculptural reasons, but for when you're making garments and you're wanting it shaped. So you can use different types of material. It could be wire, or it could be something else, cane, plastic rods, and then you can shape your fabric like such. Anything you wanted, really. Right? Or it could just be a nice curve. So it's just a way of actually getting effect really quickly.
Yeah.
On it. So you can see that could be part of a piece here or wherever, you know. It could be part of a skirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a cool little thing to play around with when you're trying to make constructions. So let's take that out just for now. So now, somebody who wanted to make mermaid things. Ah, yeah, okay. So what we could do that. So I was going to show you that, wasn't I? So have that. And I haven't got my pencil. So I would, let's say, sew that like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you got a pencil? All right. Excellent. So let's say you went like that. Let's say we just do that for now. Chop that off. So I would probably pin that, right, with my pins. So here. No, right.
Maybe they're only in the juice.
Yeah, I had a new one.
Yeah, there, Harvey? Is that the-
Oh yeah, they're there. So
Where can I
So-
get pins like that? Because I usually, what I found is the ones that have the little head in it. And those
oh
are
yeah,
harder to use.
they're no good, are they?
Yeah, they're really
Yeah.
hard to use.
Because any haberdasheries will do that. And I always go for like really thin pins. So something like that will probably do. A bit high. I'm just going to give this a go. I've done one of these for a while. So let's say we bring our foot down. We'll do a wide stitch.
You make it look so easy. I always have trouble sewing too.
Yeah.
I'm sewing like
So
no
I'm gonna,
straight.
this is kind of a good one where you flip it around and then you're going to go through again. Should really try and keep the line. Get that pin on there. Hold. Yeah, that's pretty good. Just a little bit more tension there. I think I'm going to add a little bit more tension. Yeah, too much. It's very subtle, this machine. It's a tiny bit of movement. Okay, so let's see what that does. It's fun sometimes when you don't know what's going to happen. So let's see if this works. Something's wrong, isn't it? I've done something wrong here. What have I done wrong? I think not. It's too much tension. So something's wrong.
Maybe you cut.
This bit. Yeah, this needs more cutting, doesn't it? Let's try that. It's a work in progress.
It is. Every time I saw it, it feels like it's an experiment. You never know how it's gonna come out.
I know.
But I think it's part of the process.
It is, yeah. We're always learning. I'm always learning.
That's true.
Constantly trying to find somebody to teach me another trick. Never finish learning. I don't think it's particularly right. Something's wrong here because it shouldn't do that. So I think this stitch shouldn't go all the way to the. It should have gone all the way to the end maybe, and that's what it is. So something's not quite right. But I was thinking like that for your fins,
Yeah, that would look quite nice.
more perfected, because that's not right. I've got to try and work out what isn't right there. Maybe it shouldn't come.
Maybe you might need more space in between.
Yeah, I think you're right. So it could be that shouldn't come down too much. It should just maybe do that, and then it would do it, because this is coming down, finishing, and it's not allowing that fabric to open up. So yeah, that kind of idea.
That looks quite
Anyway.
good.
So then let's do a few more things. So let's say I wanted to do zigzag on the edge to lock off a fabric. do that. Bring it down.
Can I keep this?
No. Yeah, sure. So when you're changing stitches, it's a good one actually to remember. Changing stitches on the machine, always have the needle up. So, okay, because if you have it in there, you're going to break the needle. Okay. So now I'm going to turn this one to zigzag. Which is not going to and then I'm going to give it a bit of space there. Put there. And then you'll see the zigzag happening. And then if I decrease it.
I love that system. I think it makes a difference.
Yeah, it does. I'll just break them straight now. Yeah, there you go. That's not bad.
I could use that one as well for my thing.
Yeah,
Somehow.
you need to play around with this. This is why this is so important to experiment. Because you know, I thought, hey, that's going to work straight away, and now we realise there's things, but you would never know that unless you actually started making it. Yeah.
That's true.
That's so important, just to do little tests. Get a bit of fabric like this and just test. Do loads of them. So that's zigzag. So I was just going to show you. I think, is there any questions so far? Yeah? Okay. So I was just going to show you some troubleshooting, which is kind of important, I think. So generally what happens after you've used the machine for a while, you're sewing something, all this area will collect fluff from the fabric, right? So what you need to do is to be able to clean it out, and always have a paintbrush that's coming out. You get fluff from everywhere, essentially. So I open this one up, see there's fluff there. So all of this will stop the machine working. Right, so now I'm gonna take this out. And this is like, you have to be very careful with this bit, by the way. One, it's really sharp, but if you bang it, if you lose that little point there, you've kind of lost the machine. So I'm going to clean that out there, like this. And then I'm going to carefully put this back.
If it collects too much fabric, that will stop working.
If you, sorry?
If it collects not a lot of fabric, then it will stop working.
Yeah, basically it just jams up, right?
I should do that, man. I never cleaned it before.
Yeah, you'll probably find, if you know,
I'm gonna do it when I
yeah, if you haven't cleaned it, you'll find loads of stuff in there. You'll start, here as well is another good one. You take the foot off and you clean it out like this. And it just helps it work, actually work, not work better, it just helps it work. Okay, that's all clicked in. Something going here. I'm just going to pull that through. So there's all sorts of other things obviously you can do with the machine, which is freestyle. Some machines have that function here, so this one, you can switch it to this, which means now the actual thing that pushes the fabric forward isn't going to work. So now you can actually do freestyle stitching, which I don't know if I can do without foot, but let's have a go. So you don't put the foot down, you tend to do it like this. Yeah, it's not very easy. No. So I didn't like that. Why didn't it like that? Put my steps. Don't know. So I usually use a freestyle foot, which is I've lost. Which is kind of like a foot with a round hole, which you can put down.
It's like the embroidery foot.
Yeah, that's it.
I want to get one of those. I think it's quite nice to do on the fabric.
Yeah.
I found it easier to put the fabric into a tapestry ring, because then it's sort of tensioned. So you know those rings that your grandma has to do cross stitch in. If you pop it in that, then yeah, you can see where you're going. Whereas if the fabric's crunching up, it's a bit hard,
Oh,
isn't
yeah.
it?
I will
I
try
know
with
I saw
that.
that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, they do work better, definitely.
Sometimes I
Can you
feel
do that? Can you put that under?
I can on mine, yeah, you just slide it under. But mine's made for doing denim, so I've got quite a big distance between the foot and the plate.
Oh, really?
I don't know what this one there, this looks maybe a bit close, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure that. So yeah, there's a few other techniques. You know, like let's say, maybe I should do it with this bit of fabric. I don't know.
maybe I could do something like that. That will make it like a 3D effect.
Yeah.
So many like that you can.
Beautiful.
So you want to just experiment, right? So let's say you've made a tube and you want to go here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what some people find, it's how do I do that? It's impossible. So the way you do it is by pushing the fabric up there, like this, and you scrunch it up. It's a bit tricky, but you can actually stitch right into a tube and then make your particular stitching you want to do. But you're always going to be mindful of making sure the fabric hasn't tucked underneath. It's a tricky one, but it's sometimes very, very necessary when you're making stuff.
Yeah.
To sew like that.
Is there a way to make that easier? Because when I'm sewing and I'm trying to do the how does it called? The facing, and so the little lines hard because it's all curved. Is there a way to make it easier?
On the
For example, it will be something like that. So I sew the facing, and then I need to go around like that. But it's really tiny on the inside. For example, when I go like, let's say I finish here, those bits are really tricky.
These.
Is there any way to make it easier?
So-
But the thing is, I don't have anything to show you.
Do you mean? Sorry, let me just explain. Do you mean when you stitch there, or do you mean?
No, I don't have any clothes to show you. It's like when you sew the facing. For example, let's say I want to put a facing here, then I need to go inside and then turn it around.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Right,
That big
right.
is really tricky to me because it's
Oh.
all too tight. To
Yeah, so that's actually the building of a garment, isn't it? So that's about the order of you do things. You do everything inside out, and then you leave one side, maybe the bottom, where you hand stitch.
Yeah, that's
So
what I
you
mean.
go completely inside the whole thing.
Yeah, and then you turn it.
Yeah, and then you turn it. It's a tricky one because sometimes that's done obviously the sleeves are done separately if you're doing a lining, and then you'd probably do the cuff, and then do that stitch properly, and then finish it on there on the inside.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
If there is a way that's easier to do because it's quite small and I
Yeah.
always have trouble making make a lot of mistakes when I do
Yeah,
the facing.
I think I want to talk to you more about that because I need to know more detail what you mean because
Okay.
Right,
The thing, it will be easy to show you if I had something.
Yeah,
A
definitely.
clothes or something to show you.
Yeah, definitely. If you can bring that, I'll work on that.
Yeah, I brought you one of my dresses that I made in college.
Yeah.
And then I'll show you because actually you can see when I make the mistake.
Yeah, that would be great to
Because
see.
it looks like it's supposed to be like that and it looks
Yeah.
a bit like.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you find something now, you can show me as well. But I'm not quite
I don't
understanding.
have anything, unfortunately. I should
Yeah.
have brought something with me. But I didn't know I was gonna need it.
So that they're the two. So like I explained on the bobbin, that's your underneath tension. So if anything goes a bit skew, it's one of those two. Okay. So you might just have to play around with that. And some machines have a top underneath tension. This one doesn't seem to have it. It's just got a top tension. So the bottom tension has to be done on the bobbin. I think is that it? Cleaning. Yeah, I think that's all the safety parts. So we've talked about when you're fiddling about with the machine, always to unplug it, cleaning the machine, cleaning the debris out, so it helps you maintain the machine. Sometimes you might have to oil it in different places, but follow the instructions on that. and also changing the needle, that's a very important thing to learn, and the foot.
How often do you need to change the needle?
Only when it gets blunt. So if you've had a bit of a mishap and you've forced something, it's gone. If you hear a ka-dunk, usually mean you've blunted it. So once you blunt it, that's it. You've got to change it, or it breaks. We get usually quite a lot of breaks because people get jammed and then they're forcing fabric and things like this, or too thick, that kind of thing. So that will break a needle. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not. It sounds worse than it usually is. It's just take it out, clean it up. Yeah. Okay. I think that's pretty much covered it on the basics. So you can take these out. You can play around with them. Do some tests if you want. And we've talked about fabric, was it? I told you about.
Yeah, I brought some.
Yeah, you bought some, didn't you? So this is you went and bought some as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we love
So we can put that online as
This
well.
is the.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Wow, that looks very nice.
Yeah.
Bag Ash has made, brilliant little
The only
tote.
thing is the inside, because I wasn't sure how to do overlocking, so it's pretty rough on the inside.
Okay. So does your machine do the zigzag?
Yeah, it does overlock in the machine as well.
Yeah.
But, I'm not sure about every single feature about it because it's just got so many.
Oh, brilliant. So it's got an overlocker built in.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Can I have a look?
Yep.
I'm gonna pause the video then if you've shown us all the
Yeah.
specifics.
I think I've talked about everything. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.